appreciate your time coming to see us today and to listen to us, and we are thoroughly looking forward to sharing this work with you and talking about it. Primarily, of course, we would like to say thank you very much to Dr. Paula Devine and colleagues at ARC for their work on this year's Northern Ireland Life and Times survey. We are together very honoured and grateful to be part of an almost 30-year history of providing records on the attitudes, values and beliefs of people living in Northern Ireland on a wide range of social issues. And as Paula has just outlined, it is so important to do so, and it is so important to have that data there. Myself and Lorna, we are human beings, that's our text. We are also applied linguists, and we are language educators. We are also women who were brought up in the late 70s, 80s and 90s in Northern Ireland. We are absolutely delighted to see that this year's Northern Ireland Life and Times survey includes dedicated questions funded by the Department for Communities on the Irish language and Ulster-Scots language, heritage and culture. Delighted even more so because in the same year we, together and with a wonderful team, some of them are in the room here, we began our multi-million pound research on a living observatory of shared languages and identities on the island of Ireland. Lifelines for short. It is a project which takes an evidence-based approach and partnership approach to understanding the experiences of this island's communities, where the diversity of languages, cultures and identities is duly recognised, understood and valued. And so it is from these particular positions that we present to you today the research update, Words Matter, Public Attitudes to the Irish Language and Ulster-Scots. But before we do that, we would both like to take a moment to consider Northern Ireland people. Who are we? You can see here in this infographic of Northern Ireland as 100 people what the Census 2021 data from NISR shows us about aspects of our identities related to sex, age, ethnic group, national identity and religion. It also shows us data about the main languages that we speak. To be very clear, more than English is spoken and signed every day in Northern Ireland. These latest census figures exhibit a well-known and historical fact. Northern Ireland is not a monolingual society. We use many languages. And from the Irish language, so 500 BC by the Gaels, to the varieties of English which grew up from Middle English in the 12th century and the sprouting of Ulster-Scots via plantations, to our more newly arrived communities who bring different languages with them. The languages that we use today in Northern Ireland, how we use them, are part of the stories of how we live here as human beings. For those of you who are interested in finding out a little bit more about that, you can explore the many languages that are spoken and signed across the island via this interactive map, which was designed by our Lifelines colleague, Dr. Anton Rogers. The QR code is there, should you wish to click it. So, focusing on Irish and Ulster-Scots, the census data maps by the local government districts give us a picture of the proportion of people aged 3 and over with some Irish language across the region and some Ulster-Scots across the region. And there's undoubtedly been some change over the last 5 years, and this linguistic landscape, a changing one, is unlikely to be news to anyone with a keen ear and willingness to walk on our bumpy roads. But what do we think about the languages we speak, and what are the relationships to our ideas about identity? Asked to indicate how much they agree or disagree with these 3 statements listed in the table, over half, 56%, agree or strongly agree
that the Irish language adds to the richness and diversity of Northern Ireland. 45% of respondents agree that learning the Irish language in the school curriculum is beneficial for children at school in Northern Ireland, and similarly, 45% agree that more should be done by the Northern Ireland Executive to encourage and promote the Irish language in Northern Ireland. Turning then to Ulster-Scots, when asked to indicate how much they agree or disagree with the same three statements listed in the top row of the table, 45% agree or strongly agree that Ulster-Scots heritage and language and culture add to the richness and diversity of Northern Ireland. 31% of respondents agree that learning Ulster-Scots language, heritage, culture in school is beneficial for children in Northern Ireland. And 28% agree that more should be done by the Northern Ireland Executive to encourage and promote Ulster-Scots language, heritage and culture in Northern Ireland. So when it comes then to interest in learning or improving knowledge of Ulster-Scots language, heritage and culture, some 23% of people reported that they were very or somewhat interested.
In some contrast, 41% of people reported that they were very or somewhat interested in learning or improving their Irish language skills in the future. We are language educators, so we are going to talk about how people want to learn. So when asked about their preferred ways of learning Irish, the 5 most favoured ways of learning Irish from the respondents, as you can see here, are informal language learning. That includes things like community classes and language cafes, online language courses, language learning apps, visits to Gaeltacht areas where Irish is the main language spoken, and through TV and radio. As language educators, what this signals to us is a preference for more community-driven, communicative and flexible approaches to language teaching. For those interested in learning about Ulster-Scots language, heritage and culture, favoured methods include television and radio programmes, informal language learning, community classes, language cafes, visits to the Heartlands areas where Ulster-Scots has particular significance and provenance, music and arts events and online courses. Moving now to visibility of languages used here in Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Life and Times Survey 2025 asked respondents if they would like to see or hear more or less of Irish and Ulster-Scots being used in Northern Ireland, in places, public places, official documents, street signs, on TV and radio. Results reveal that attitudes towards public visibility of Irish and Ulster-Scots are somewhat cautious and mixed. In relation to Irish, 40% of respondents said they would like a lot or a little more visibility. 29% would like less, 21% would like the same amount, 10% said they didn't know. Same question in relation to Ulster-Scots. In public places and spaces, 21% wanted to see or hear more, 25% preferred less, 35% wanted current levels maintained, and 19% said that they didn't know. This is a somewhat relatively large don't know category, which may suggest some limited engagement with Ulster-Scots amongst the wider population.
So then when it comes to respondents' views on the relationship between language and identity, speaking, learning and living in Irish language is linked to identity, with 78% of respondents who speak Irish very well, or to some extent, saying that the Irish language is very or fairly important to their identity. And then for Ulster-Scots heritage, language and culture, knowledge and identity appear closely connected but not identical. 80% of those who said that Ulster-Scots heritage was important to their identity also reported some knowledge of the culture, while awareness was lower among those who didn't consider it important to their identity. And around 1/3 of those with some knowledge described Ulster-Scots as important to their identity. Across all indicators, support for Irish language promotion was higher overall than support for Ulster-Scots language, heritage and culture promotion. Attitudes, however, towards Ulster-Scots were somewhat more evenly distributed across political affiliations. So, what does all of this suggest? Well, the data that we have presented today, and you can find online and written in the research update, indicates that Ulster, Scots and Irish fulfil very different functions, roles and perform in different spaces within contemporary Northern Irish society. Education and policy interventions in this linguistic context will require bespoke approaches.
It also suggests, to us at least, that on the one hand we take our many ways of doing languages on this island for granted, and on the other we often shine far too harsh a light on them. We think our languages are the air we breathe and the water that we drink, and we also think that if you stop along the road of this country somewhere and listen, really, really listen to the place where we all live, it'll tell you that itself. And so, to conclude, the Northern Ireland Life and Times Survey 2025 reveals that there is robust public support for both Irish language and Ulster-Scots as enriching life in Northern Ireland. For learning and knowing about two of Northern Ireland's languages, heritage and cultures, adult language learners favour accessible, community-based and experiential forms of linguistic and cultural engagement rather than, it seems, formal or institutionalised learning models. We very much thank you for your time, for listening to us. We encourage you to have a read at the full report, and we're very happy now to hear the responses from our colleagues and